Hi guys, welcome to the channel. In our last video, we create insurance form. When this form is submitted, this information is sent to a Foundry agent, and that Foundry agent talks to MCP server, which then store this information in an Azure Storage account. So this is just a one client which is talking to Azure Foundry agent, but we can create multiple clients. For example, we can create a Microsoft form which could be used by your internal employees. You don't have to go to this public facing website and submit an insurance claim or insurance policy. They can receive a link to this form in their email. So when this form is submitted, this will call the same Azure Foundry agent, which is linked to the MCP server, and that MCP server will store this information in the storage account. So web application was one client which is calling the Foundry agent. A Microsoft form which we'll be creating in this session is another client which can be used in multiple scenarios. And in the next few videos, we will also create similar clients. For example, you can use Microsoft Teams, submit this information, which can talk to Azure Foundry, or you can use Copilot Studio and submit same information. But in today's session, we will focus on Microsoft Forms. So let's look into that. Let's design the form first. So go to forms.office.com. You will see this page. Click on New Form. Let's name this form New Insurance Policy. I have just defined a title and a description of the form. So let's create some fields. The first one will be the content field. So this is the form we are designing. So first is the content. So this is a required field, and this is the multi-line text box. So we can have it a long answer. And after that, we have insurance at title. Then we have tags, which is a comma separated string. You can go to subtitle and you can specify some description here. Then we have premium amount and is active. So premium amount would be a number. So we can add restriction and we can say this is a number. His number is also fine, but I can say that must be greater than or equal to 0 or 5 or 10. So this will add some sort of validation here. And then we have is active, which could be a choice column. I can say yes, no. I think that's it. Let's preview this form. Yep, all okay. So now once this form is submitted, we have to take this information and submit to the Foundry agent. So when this form is submitted, we can trigger a workflow. So let's design a workflow. Go to make.powerautomate.com. Click on new automated cloud flow. So I have specified the name of the flow and the trigger will be when a new response is submitted. So this is the Microsoft Forms. Click on create. So we have to specify the form. So we have created new insurance policy form. Okay, so when this form is submitted, we need to get the detail of that submission. So there is an action called get response detail. So this need a form which we have just created, new insurance policy, and also the response ID. Response ID is coming from the first action. Okay, so when the form is submitted, we are getting the response, and then we have to submit this response to a function app. And the function app will call the Foundry agent. So next step we can do is we can design a function app. If you have been following this channel and this playlist, we created a blank solution and few projects in that. We also created a function app. If you don't have function app, you can create a new one. So I have created a function app, then I created a folder for triggers, and then I have multiple triggers. So I'm going to create a new trigger. But before that, let me create a branch. So name of my function is create new insurance, HTTP trigger. So this will be HTTP trigger. Okay, we have to make some minor modifications. So just pick another one. For example, this one. So this should be returning HTTP response data. And it will receive HTTP request data. It is not a get. So I can remove the get, only leave the post. And then we can return this thing. So we don't have results. So I can remove this part. So I can create a new object. So this needs to be async. And I think we are done. We have done the basics. So let's run it and see it action. Make sure the function app is the starter project. So this is our trigger, create new insurance HTTP trigger. So I can copy that. I just need to copy the name. And then we can switch to local environment. So if I look at the local environment, the server URL is 7136, which is correct, 7136. So we switch to the local environment, and then we make sure that it is a post. In body, we can just leave it empty or just put something. So we have a breakpoint and just click on send. Okay, so it is hitting the breakpoint. So that means trigger is all okay. Now we have to call Foundry agent on the HTTP trigger. If you look at the web app we created, so in the new insurance policy on submission, we can calling this agent and then we calling this method. So let's integrate the agent part first. So we need to have this. But if you look at the agent, so when an agent is triggered, it need assistant agent client as well, and also the agent ID. So if I go to my program file in that web project, web application, I can see that I have to register this in the program files. So I just copy that. I go to function app, I go to program, I can register it here. Okay, so this is expecting this method. So that configuration value. So this is the method we created. So I'm copying that and I just paste it here. So this is not a static. So this method is useful. So this will get the value from the configuration file and checks if this is a null or empty, and then it simply throws an exception. Okay, so we can make some minor modification. We don't have to pass this. We can use this builder. Okay, then we need to make sure that we have Azure Foundry endpoint in the configuration. So if I go to my web project, I have this configuration. So I'm just copying that and go to function app and then local settings and just paste it here. So after this Foundry endpoint, we also need to make sure that we have insurance claim agent ID. So in that web project, we have a setting for insurance claim agent ID. I'm just copying that and paste it here. If you don't know how to get this URL and the ID, you go to Foundry. So this is my AI Foundry project. Okay, from the overview page, You have three tabs here. The first one is Microsoft Foundry. So that's the URL I copied, which is this one. And then we need the insurance claim agent ID. You go to agents. You will see a list of agents here. So this one is the one we have been using in this demo. This one is ending with YRL, and that's exactly the URL we have. Okay, so we have Foundry endpoint, and also we have the insurance claim agent ID. So we need these two things, and let's see what else we need. Okay, let's put a breakpoint here and run the function app again. Load the Foundry agent. It also found the agent ID, and now it's getting the persistent agent client, which we have not registered yet. So it will throw us an error. Yep, it says that this doesn't exist. If you go to the program file of the web application, we need to register the persistent agent client, which is used by the agent. Okay, so this needs Foundry agent, which we already have, and this also needs default Azure credentials. So this part is very important. So I will explain that in a minute. So now let's run it again. Agent instance has been loaded, and the function app shows the success message. Okay, so now next thing we need to do is in that function app, we have to call that agent, and it has a function called create insurance claim, and it needs insurance claim model data. So this information will be coming from the postman. So what information we need to pass here so that we can take help of the MCP server. So we created MCP server in last couple of videos, and this is the exact content we need to pass. So I'm just copying this whole JSON object and pasting it here. And these properties match with this insurance claim model. So this had the same set of properties. So in the request, we have to get that object. Whatever is in the request body, we can deserialize that and storing into input. We don't need this, and we can just pass this input here. And whatever the agent response is, we just write it here. Okay, let's run it. Okay, so when I deserialize it, everything came null. We have to provide JSON serializer options. So if you look at the model class, the first letter is capital, but in the JSON payload, everything is lowercase, is camel case. So what we can do is when we deserializing it, we can specify the naming policy. Let's have a look. This should be like this. Okay, so looking all good. So we have parsed that object and now we are calling the agent. Let me put a breakpoint here. Just a message to the new viewers. This is how we call the Foundry agent. If you don't know about this code, please watch my first video in this playlist. I have explained all this line by line. So the status is in progress. So it's now is requires action in progress and completed. And it's saying that the insurance policy has been created successfully and returns the ID, which should be returned to the function app. And that should be displayed in Postman. Okay, so we have created the insurance policy. Let's have a look. So time now is 11:57. So let me sort this. So it's created 1 minute ago. And if I download, and it says test content Azure, so that is exactly what we passed from the Postman. So looks like function app is all working locally. Now it's time to deploy. And one thing which I said before, this one is default Azure credentials. So when I'm running this locally, it is using my personal account, which I have full permission on Azure. But when we deploy this function app, the function app may not have permission on the Azure Foundry, and it might throw error. So once we get there, then we will explain that how this identity works. So let's deploy this first. So while it is publishing, let's have a look at the configurations and make sure that we all have configuration in the function app. So we added two configuration properties. So let's have a look. Okay, so the first one is Azure Foundry endpoint. I have that here, and also it matches the same value. If you don't have, then please add this configuration entry there. Then we have insurance claim agent ID, which does not exist. So we have to add it here. Okay, all good. Now let's see. It says publish succeeded. So let's have a look at the functions. Okay, it's all deployed fine. Now we need to test it with the Postman. So I'm switching this to Azure environment. And if I look at the Azure environment, so I can change this to function app URL, not server URL. And also in the local environment, this is the URL. So starting with HTTPS and then colon double slash and then URL. Okay. And then you also need the token, the code. If you go to functions, you have app keys. You can pick the default one and add it here. Okay, if all is okay, then just simply make sure that the Azure environment is selected, and this is not a server URL now. So this is a function app URL. And let's make some changes in the payload. So that will be new test Azure and function app, and then just send it. Okay, so it's throwing an error. So let's have a look at the application inside and see what we get there. The request we sent at 1.7. Let's keep refreshing it. Okay, so we are getting an exception. If I go into more details, so that says the principal, which is this ID, like the required data action, which is it's talking about the permission that this principal ID doesn't have this role, so it can't read from this projects. on the threads. So it's saying that the function app doesn't have permission to call an agent in Azure Foundry. If we look at the code, so when we initialized this persisted agent client, which is the agent client for the Foundry, we specified the default Azure credentials. And my Visual Studio is logged in with my account, my personal account, which has full access on Azure. So that's why it works locally. But when we deployed it, the function app needs to talk to the Foundry agent and throwing error that the function app doesn't have permissions. So to grant the permissions, there are multiple ways. The recommended way is to use managed identity. So let's go to function app. And in the function app, the first thing you need to do is go to identity and make sure that this system signed identity is turned on. This will give you this principal ID. So this one is ending with 9C6. And if you look at that, the principal, it's also ending with 9C6. So that means it's talking about this function app. So we need to give this function app permission on the Foundry agent. So look for Azure Open API and look for Foundry. And this is the Foundry agent we have. And click on access control. If I look at my access, so I have owner and Azure AI user permission. So that's why it works with my account. But if we check the permission for the function app, so this is our function app and it has no permissions. So we have to give function app permission. So click on add and click on add role assignment and search for user. And there is a permission called Azure AI user. You don't have to give administrator permissions. Azure AI user is enough. Click on next. Click on manage identity. Select members. And in the members, select function app. It will give you the list of all function app. So choose the one function app you want and click on select and next and review plus assign. So once it says the role assignment has been added, click on check access, managed identity, function app, use your function app, and now it says that this function app Azure AI user permissions. So now the permissions has been assigned. The only thing we need to do is we go to Postman and just send again. Okay, looks like we have got the success message. So let's have a look at the storage account. This is 113. So time is now 113 and I can see a document uploaded. I can download and see the content. And this is exactly what we type. Okay, so looks like the function amps has been deployed. It is working locally and also it is working when we deploy it on Azure. So what is next now? So if we go to our Power Automate workflow, now from the Power Automate workflow, we have to call that HTTP post request. So we have to call this function app and that will create the insurance policy for us. So in Power Automate, look for an action called HTTP. Now this HTTP requires a URL. If you look at here, so in the URL, we also have a code, which is a secret code. So one way is you can simply write this code here. So I can go to console and I can copy this complete URL along with code and paste it here. Sorry, not here. Paste it here. So this will work, but the code is visible. So this should not be visible at all. And for that, what I would recommend is you can move this code into Azure Key Vault. So I have a Key Vault created for YouTube demos. Click on Object, go to Secrets. So I have added a secret entry, YouTube demos function app code. And I can go to my Power Automate, copy this code and create a new version here and create. So now this is secure place, and then in that Power Automate we can read from here. So this code can now go into queries, and this code we need to read from the Key Vault. So let's add an action for the Key Vault. So that would be get secret. If you don't have a connection, make sure you add a connection. And once you add the connection, you need to specify the name of the Key Vault, and then it will show list of all Key Vault secrets in it. So this is the Key Vault secret we have created. So click on that and just change the name. Get function app code. And in place of code, we can receive the body slash value. So value will be the actual secret. And this would be a post method. And next thing is the body. So if we look at the postman request, this is the body we have to pass. So we can directly paste it here, which will work. But I would recommend we should be parsing this JSON before sending it. So let's create a new variable. So that will be create insurance JSON. Its type would be an object and the value would be this. So this content is coming from the form. So in that get response detail, we have a content property. So click on that. For the insurer, same way there is insurer property. You can choose title. And then in between these two array brackets, we have to choose the tags because that will be coming as a string, comma separated string. And then we have this premium number, premium amount, and then we have is active. Okay, so once we have created this object, there is an action which can actually parse this. So that will be parse JSON. So the input would be that variable, and the schema we can define from here. So just copy this example content and define schema here. So this will just paste the payload and it will automatically define a schema for us. So in schema, you can see that content is a string, insurer, title, they're all string. The tags is array of string, and the premium amount is integer, and the is active is boolean. Now save and test it. Let's make first entry. So I will say we have received the response. If I click on the response, if I go to output, I can see that premium amount is coming as a string, but the JSON is expecting it as an integer. And same for this one. This needs to be a Boolean value. So we have to do some sort of parsing. And it's complaining about the same thing. Expected Boolean, but got a string is active. So we have to convert into a Boolean. So in that premium amount, just click on cross. So after the colon and before the comma, click on this function and search for a function for integer. So in fact, this should be a float or decimal. This should not be integer because this is a premium amount. So that's decimal, and go to dynamic content and select the premium amount. So it will convert this, whatever the value in this section is, it will convert into decimal. So that's one. Now do same thing for is active. Click on this delete icon. And because this is, if you look at the form, so this is being sent as yes and no. So if we need to check if it is yes, then it would be true. Otherwise it would be false. So if is active is equals to yes, then it will return automatically true. Otherwise it will return false. Sorry, it needs to be single quote. And I think that's it. Let's save and test. I forgot to provide the body, so I'm clicking on edit. So the body is empty. So we have to provide the body, which is, and just like the variable name. So this is when the form is submitted. This is where we're getting the response. This is where we're getting the function app key, and then we're setting an initialized variable, which is the actual JSON payload, and then we parsing that. If this payload is not correct, this will fail at this step. The parse JSON step will fail. And if everything is okay, then this HTTP call will be made, and we are passing this payload. So let's save and run it. It's all good. So the time is 1:39. So if I look at my storage account, so there is a document created at 1:39. And if we download that, and that showed the demo content. So all is good. Okay, let's recap what we did so far and what I'm planning for the next video. So we created a Microsoft form with some inputs with some forms fields we needed. So we copied the form fields from here, but we design our own form. So once this form was submitted, we are getting the response of that form, the keyword secret. So the main thing is that HTTP request. So we created a function app for that. So if I look at the function app, so we created a simple function app, and that the payload is received in the body. So we deserialize that and store in an object, and then we call the agent. So we already had the agent created. It's in the agents folder. So we had this insurance claim agent. So when this agent is called and pass the payload, so we prepare a prompt, which I had described in the previous video, and then we call the Foundry agent. And in the Foundry agent, it makes some calls and then send the response back. Okay, so that's it for today. So in previous video, we have this web application client, which is calling the agent. In this video, we created this Power Automate along with Microsoft Form. This is a different client. And in the next video, I'm thinking to create another client, which could be Copilot Studio, and try to integrate with the teams as well. So in the team or in the Copilot Studio, we will have a similar form where will we submit the form, and that form will call this workflow, and this workflow will do its job. And that will be in the next video. So I hope you learned something very exciting. And if you did, please like, share, subscribe. And if you have any question, please write in the comment. I will try to answer all these comments. And thank you very much, and see you again in the next video. Bye.